And now, Lifestyles Unlimited presents the Real Estate Investor Radio Show. Over the next hour, we unfold your map to financial freedom. You'll learn how to retire through investing in single-family and multifamily real estate. You'll learn how to create cash flow and build wealth so you can have the time and money to live the lifestyle you want.
Welcome to the show. This is Andy Webb with Lifestyles Unlimited. And as always, we're working on your financial freedom. And I thank you for tuning in today. If you have any questions, you can send those to me at askandy@luinc.com. I want to get that out of the way now while I'm thinking about it while I have the time again. Askandy@luinc.com. And speaking about time, that's what I want to talk about on today's show, time. What is your time worth? Well, let me tell you, your time is invaluable. Can't get it back. And unfortunately, it's often a roadblock because, quite frankly, you just do not have enough of it to go around. And when we talk about real estate investing, and that is what we talk about on this program, time is a very, very common mental hurdle for you. You hear us talk about it on the radio. Buying a single-family rental house, fixing it up, renting it out, enjoying that passive income. I'm going to underscore that word, passive income. But you think to yourself, man, I just don't have the time. I don't have time to find that property to buy and do the due diligence. I don't have time to do the renovations to get it fixed up. You talk about buying fixer-uppers on this program, right? I certainly don't have then time to find the residents to rent it out and then to manage the property. I just don't have time. I've been doing this for coming up on a dozen years now as a single family investor and as somebody that does self-manage his properties. And I'll tell you, those things do not take as much time as you think they do. And we'll get to that later in the show. And ultimately, what you'll find out when you go down this path and start buying single-family houses, or perhaps you invest in apartments, a lot of members at Lifestyles Unlimited do that as well. What you'll find out is that you have a lot more time on your hands, a lot more time on your hands than you have now. So we're going to talk about time today because it's your most precious resource. It is not renewable. You cannot get it back, no matter how many times you hit snooze on that alarm clock in the morning. It's not coming back. And I'll tell you this, for me, this is a year that I'm particularly noticing the passage of time. Why is that? Well, I turned 50 later this year. 50 times around the sun. And I'll tell you, when I was growing up, 40 was the big number. That was, back then, that was over the hill. I can remember my mom approaching that number, that decade, and frantically worrying about becoming over the hill. You know, if you're younger right now, you may not know the phrase, but over the hill, of course, it's a euphemism for being old. So at 40, you were old. Well, I cruised past that, and I'm about to have another decade behind me, and I'm not even sure exactly that I'm over the hill just yet. Not quite feeling it. But it's weird if I stop and think about that number. 50 for me is, it's halfway to being 100 years old. Now, in all seriousness, I probably won't make it that long, but if I do, that's another 50 years ahead of me. It's crazy to think about. And if I do, the good news is that I am financially free, right? We're working on your financial freedom, but I'm there already. I retired when I was still in my 40s. I still am in my 40s, but retired then, financially free. So I'll have a long, long time of enjoying the lifestyle, a long time to enjoy my most precious resource with my family, which is my time with them. So that's if I think forward. And it's interesting as well, if I go the other direction, and I was thinking about this just the other day, if I reflect backwards and just cut that 50 in half my life ago, I was just 25. It seems like forever ago. And I can remember when I was 25, I heard a very common refrain from people back then. So get this. Well, first of all, where was I 25 years ago? Well, that was 1999. What was happening in 1999? Well, stick with me here. This is going to bring us back to today. And quite frankly, a lot of the things that Americans are doing wrong right now, believe me, I did it too. But at the time, I had finished my undergrad work, University of Texas, go Longhorns, degree in Russian and German languages. What the heck do you do with that? Now, what did I do? I bought a one-way ticket to Moscow, Russia. One way. Seems odd. I went over there with my then girlfriend, now wife. Said to her, hey, I want to go practice. I want to go learn some more. Here's what I'm going to do. And so we went over there for a year and taught English for 12 months in Moscow. We had a lot of time on our hands, by the way. It was just a couple hours, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. That was it. Spent the time cruising through the city, cruising through the country. But we saved our dollars. We were paid in dollars. And at the end of that stay, we cruised around Europe for a few months, backpacking, seeing the sights and that sort of thing. And that is when I kept hearing that common refrain. So back then, people around me recognized, older people around me recognized the fleeting nature of time. And here's what they kept telling me. They said, Andy, you're doing it right. Travel now while you're young, while you have time. Travel now before you're saddled with responsibilities and saddled with debt, consumer debt, right? And the burden of a lifestyle, keeping up with the Joneses, right? Continually building that lifestyle, taking on more debt. Do it now before you're in fact too old to travel. And again, it seemed like good feedback to me at the time, but I'll tell you, perhaps back then, there would have been better advice. Because what did I do? I wound up doing what they did. I went back to school because I didn't know what to do exactly with Russian and German. It was liked the degrees, liked the languages, but went back to grad school and got more good grades and loaded up on student loan debt and entered the corporate world. So I entered a little bit later than perhaps a lot of you did. Maybe that's a good thing, but fortunately I kept it short, because the advice I think I would have rather heard back then would have been to hear, yes, go get a solid job now, Andy, and work hard now, early in your young years, and get enough capital into place to do the things that we talk about on this show right here, Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show. Invest in residential rental real estate. Push hard now to get that rental portfolio built at a young age. Right? Common regret of most investors I know is that I did not start sooner. And that is essentially my lament right now. Now, I've had a good life. I've enjoyed everything we've done. But if I think about time in that context, if I had started building this rental portfolio that I have now at the age of 25 years ago, man. But that did not happen. That did not happen. It's not the feedback, not the advice I got. The people around me did not know any better. And that's common. That's normal. They only knew the conventional wisdom path. Go to school, get good grades. Go to college, get good grades. Get a job. And that's what I did. I went down the path that most other Americans do. The conventional wisdom path. But it's interesting. I got off that path, fortunately, like I said. But it's interesting to me now, because if I look around, that very path has actually shifted lately. Getting those grades and getting that good job is no longer good enough. So what are people doing these days? A lot of people out there. The side hustle, right? There's a common refrain now as well. Let's talk about the side hustle. Back then, the common refrain I heard was, hey, yeah, it's great you're traveling now. Now that refrain is, go get a side hustle, a side gig. And around 40% of Americans, in fact, per recent studies, they do have side hustles. And there are various reasons why, but for a lot of them, it's out of necessity. And this is where I need you to take a moment, just stop and ponder this fact, whether you have a side hustle or not. 40% of Americans do. And then think about this. If the conventional wisdom path that we talk about, that we learn about in school and throughout our life and hear from our peers and our elders, if that conventional wisdom path actually worked, do you really think that many people would need a side hustle? Would need a side gig? No, it's really just a glorified term for a second job. And just like any job, it takes your time. What are some common side gigs at the moment? I'm sure you've observed a lot of these, probably used some of these. When we went overseas, we called a rideshare. We used a rideshare app to get to the airport and to get home. That's a very common side hustle at the moment. Ride sharing with various apps, whichever you use or want to use. Food delivery by way of those same applications. These things take your time. Not just your time, but wear on your vehicles, of course. Content creation. That's what I'm doing right now, in fact. But content creation, right? Blogging, writing articles for others, trying to draw eyeballs to websites, other online activities, drop shipping, Amazon, that sort of thing, right? Selling products, eBay, a lot of things that involve movement of goods, cleaning. I was doing some research here. A lot of people are getting into house cleaning at the moment. And a lot of freelance, just general freelance activities, just to name a few. There are a lot more out there. And you may be involved in one. And the problem is, with any of these, you are either fully engaged nonstop during your free time, right? Because this is a side hustle, which implies that you have a regular job as well. So that regular job, 40, 50, 60 hours ends. Now comes your free time, and you're devoting your free time to this side hustle. If you're not fully engaged in that free time, then there is no income for the most part, right? Or you're constantly grinding to grow that side hustle to chase down more business. And that's a problem with most of the side gigs out there, is the grind never stops. So you're on that conventional wisdom path. You get the great job, but you have to work the job, and it's not panning out quite like you thought it would financially. So now you've got the side hustle, and you've got to grind and grind and grind on top of the daily grind. A truly great side hustle is one where you get it started and you're not perpetually bound to that thing. And the side hustle I'm talking about is residential rental real estate. There's a reason why we talk about passive income. There's a reason why it's passive. There's a reason why I'm able to do all the things I do with my passive income portfolio in place, even though I self-manage my properties. We're able to travel. We're able to homeschool our child. We're able to do so many things because I'm not having to perpetually keep that grind going. It is a common mental hurdle, as I open the show, when I talk to people about real estate investing, people that have never done this. Maybe they've thought about it. They heard what we do and they're interested. Common mental hurdle, and there are many mental hurdles out there, but a very big one is simply that phrase, that common refrain again. I just don't have time. So I've talked about in the start of the show kind of some of the common paths we follow, the conventional wisdom path, which leads nowadays for 40% of us to the side hustle, which just eats more of our time. And I want to now shift gears, and we're going to head into a break here in just a moment. And what I want to do now is really address that common mental hurdle, which is I don't have time. How much time does it really take? Right? As a single-family investor, most people start out buying single-family rental houses. Eventually, you may shift into apartments like we've begun to do. But I want to take a look at that phrase, I don't have time, and look at a few of the, let's say, stages in the single-family rental house cycle and take that apart. Help you understand that should not be a mental hurdle. That should not be a fear. When you get this going, that ball rolls. It is passive. You're hands off. You enjoy your time. Speaking of time, quick break. We'll be right back.
Got questions? Call Lifestyles Unlimited at 855-497-4335. The Real Estate Investor Radio Show continues next.
Want to continue the conversation inside the community? Follow Lifestyles Unlimited on Facebook. Stay up to date on upcoming events, market trends, member stories, featured podcasts, real estate wisdom, and more. You can even join us a couple of times a month as we go live with our case study events right on Facebook from the comfort of your home. Get online and get in the know. Turn listening on the radio into participating in the community. Like and follow Lifestyles Unlimited on Facebook today.
Creating the lifestyle you've always wanted. You're hearing Lifestyles Unlimited's Real Estate Investor Radio Show.
Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Andy Webb. I thank you for tuning in today. And we're taking a look at time, right? I'm about to hit the big 50, clearing another decade, sending that behind me. See if I get to 100, that's another 50 years. But even if I don't, we've put things into place that we're really enjoying our time right now. And I would like you to do the same. Ultimately, by the way, if you have any questions throughout this show or any others, you can send those to me at askandy@luinc.com. I'll take the time to answer those myself. I do enjoy your questions. Again, askandy@luinc.com. But you have a common mental hurdle that a lot of people do, especially because you are working, right? You're working 40, 50, 60 hours a week. You've got a family. If you're like I'm experiencing now, we just started basketball. Right, we've got basketball practice, and at least one evening a week. We've got a basketball game on the weekend. We had jiu-jitsu going for a while. All kinds of activities around our kids. If you have kids, that is a big time drain as well. Enjoy that. Don't get me wrong when I say time drain, but it does take it takes your time. And that common lament, that common refrain comes out when we talk about buying a rental house. You say, I just don't have the time. So let's take that apart now and just kind of walk through a few of the stages in the cycle of buying a rental house and talk about what is the time. Now, I don't have an exact number for you. Maybe one of these months I should sit down and actually time myself. I've done this in prior jobs where time was important as a finance guy and processes and all that fun stuff. Never really done it for what we're talking about today, but I can just tell you anecdotally, none of these things take a lot of time. But let's talk about the cycle, and we'll start with buying, because you got to buy a rental house before you can own a rental house. And you think, I don't have time to find that house. I don't have time to find that property. And I'm in this stage right now. We sold the house late last year. We've got some capital, so we're looking to deploy that. So I personally am in this buying stage right now. How much time am I spending every day and every week? What have I been talking about on the show? Traveling. We went overseas for several weeks, homeschooling my son, going to his sports activities. I have realtors, and I have something called wholesalers out there that I know, that I've met over the years, that are looking for properties so that I don't have to. So I'm leveraging their knowledge and their time. I've got a couple of printouts here. I probably won't look at these with you during the course of today's show, but a couple of emails I got recently from the Lifestyles Realty team out of various markets. Right, I'm seeing leads out of Kansas City, Missouri. I'm seeing leads out of Springfield, Missouri, over in various parts of Georgia, South Carolina, good numbers, North Carolina, Texas. Actually chased down. We were close on the hunt of one here in North Texas, and in fact entered the contract period. I didn't find this house. Realtor brought it to me. Then we got the contract, started due diligence. Was I out there nitpicking the house, putting my scope of work together? No. Inspector went out, did that for me. General contractor, we send those out. They put those estimates together. They're doing that legwork. So even during the due diligence period, once we're under contract, not a lot of time. Now, I do encourage you, if you're in the area and you can go look at the house, yeah, you should. And over the course of the contract period, we figured out, okay, this one's not quite the right one for us. We're going to use our option and exit. This was on the MLS. This was on the market. But due diligence doesn't have to take a lot of your time. Neither does finding the property. And when it comes to some of the finer details of the contract period, getting money to your earnest money and whatnot, option fee if you have one, to the title company, monies flow online these days. I did that all from my phone, in fact. And when it comes to closing, do I have to go down to the title company? Sometimes you may be out of state. You may be in Canada, or you may be in Australia. We have members there, in Germany as well. You may not be able to go down to Georgia to sign at the closing table. Well, a mobile notary can come out. And even here in Texas, if I'm buying a house down the road, more often than not, we're just going to tell that mobile notary to come to us, because we recognize that our time is valuable. So this is a big, big part of the process. You can't own a rental house if you don't buy one. And it seems like a lot of time is going to go into that process, but it doesn't have to be, okay? And we talk, for example, at our 2-day financial freedom seminar about that process and about buying and finding property. I think probably the big, if I stop for a moment and think, I'm just thinking about what I did yesterday. I got a great lead on a house. I spent about 15 minutes online reviewing. This was out of state. I can't go look at it. Just doing my due diligence with comps, sold comps, rent comps, running my numbers. That's about it. That was probably the bulk of it. So time to find a property to buy. Don't let that be an excuse. But you buy it. And we talk about buying houses that need work, that need renovations. The next refrain that I hear is, well, I don't have time to do the renovations. No, you don't. And you shouldn't be out there doing the renovations. We talk about this a lot. Use other people's time here as well. A good general contractor will have you covered. If you want to build your own team and manage as a GC, you can do that pretty much remotely as well. But with a good GC, they're going to have you covered. You know, when we started this 12 years ago, that's what we did. We leaned on a general contractor, had great processes, had a lot of video, a lot of pictures. And this was in the DFW area. I could go out there every other day if I needed to, but we didn't have to. This particular GC had great processes. So as you engage GCs, find out what their processes look like and what kind of updating they can do for you, especially if you're investing remotely. Regular updates with pictures and videos, that's all it takes if you have good processes in place. Now, I know a lot of people that are DIY owners that find the houses on their own, have marketing programs, stuff like this. That will take time. And if you followed our motto, first and foremost, let me tell you this: best product, best price. People are going to want to rent that house from you. And you can put processes into place here to really shorten that time commitment. Showing the house, that can take a lot of time. Well, you know, not necessarily. These days there are things called lock boxes that are automated with rolling pins, rolling codes to get in. You can automate that process as well. So if you have a good process in place, I think that's the key word here, and you have a good team in place, this does not have to take any more time than any other parts of the process. Now, you do need to have a good screening process in place, and I encourage you to be involved here. You want to make sure that you have you want to make sure you have great residents in place. This is very important because this will impact the rest of your hold period. Because guess what? Now you've got the property stabilized, rehabbed, you've got residents in place. Now it's time to manage the property. And if you have a good screening process and make sure you put the right residents into place, that management, I can tell you this because I self-manage, that management is nothing. Now, if you say, hey, I'm still working a lot, I don't want to deal with this, well, hand that house or the houses, maybe you have multiple at this point, hand those over to a property manager. They can do the lease up and they can do the management for you as well. Now, you'll give up a little bit of your rent for that. So make sure the numbers work as you analyze properties if that is your plan. But yeah, I know a lot of great investors that do that very thing. They don't touch the properties at all. They hand it over to a manager. But again, as somebody that self-manages, I will tell you, if you have gotten a good education under your belt and put good processes into place, this does not take much time either. I mean, I self-manage a double-digit portfolio of houses, both around Dallas-Fort Worth and in the Houston area. And I don't commit much of my time in my day, in my week, or in my month to the portfolio. Again, best product, best price. If you're going in and fixing everything up front, you're going to have low to no maintenance. And if you have everything fixed up and that house looks great and you price it right, you're going to have great residents with good screening, of course. That makes it easy. What other parts of the process might come up? You know, occasionally people move, right? You might go through a renewal. Well, that just is cycling back to that lease up part. Not a renewal, but rather a lease up, remarketing the property. Well, you've done it once. You've got your processes refined. You keep going. You'll have a little bit of make ready, which is where, you know, outgoing resident, maybe there's a little bit of wear and tear, touch up the paint, things like that. If they're great residents, they've taken good care of the property, so there's little to do. And if you have good, regular, ongoing processes, you have somebody out there on your behalf, maybe you do this yourself, checking on the house regularly. And if something is broken, fix it now so that when it comes time to market that house, it's ready to go. Renewals with the existing resident base, it's just doing an analysis online quickly, market comps for the leases, and hey, here's my offer. Other operations, boy, we just sold the house. What was my time commitment there? Put it into the MLS and let it go. Other people show the house. Other people write up the contracts. We review those. We say yay or nay. Go to the closing table with a mobile notary, as we talked about. So a lot of the processes where you get hung up and think, I don't have the time, it doesn't really take that much time. Taxes, tenants, toilet. That's the other common refrain we hear. By the way, taxes, hire a CPA. I really encourage you. I was talking with an investor the other day. He's been doing this for decades, and he does it himself online, TurboTax, whatever. Hire a CPA. Hand that off. So you may be noticing as I've gone through these various parts of the cycle of the stages of buying, fixing, leasing, managing, selling a single-family house, I'm not doing all these things myself. I have other people on my team. I'm using their time and their knowledge. We talked about this on a recent show. Using other people's money, using other people's time, using other people's knowledge. So where does the work as an investor really come? For me, the big work was 12 years ago. It comes up front. And I don't mean the buying the house and rehabbing that house. I'm talking about you working on you. The front end time is really spent around education and building a team. This is really, if you're just getting started, this is really where you should focus your time right now. And then once you have that behind, you've gotten the education, you can refresh here and there, right? I like to go out to the 2-day financial freedom seminar once a year at a minimum, just to hear what's going on, talk with others, network with, it's not just people there for the first time that show up, by the way. There are other experienced investors that come out as well. And I like to compare notes, see what the mentors have to say, see what the presenters of the Financial Freedom Seminar are talking about. So once that's behind you, that education, you're set. Of course, you might be thinking, well, Andy, you've got a lot of houses. Do more properties take more time? No. I'm going to go back to team. Once your team is in place, and this is what you do on the outset as well, build up that team. Generally, the same team can service one property or 50. For example, deep freeze coming. This is kind of an overhead activity. I just send out one email. Doesn't matter if I have one house or 50. One email goes out with a freeze warning. Do these things, blah, 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 protect your pipes, etc. It's that easy. And you're going to find other efficiencies in things like what we just talked about, communication, accounting, regular ongoing things like scheduling annual air conditioning servicing. So even with a single family portfolio spread all around the area, you're going to find some economies of scale. Now, it's never going to be quite like you'll encounter in apartments, and we talk about those as well at the 2-day. But the economies of scale, they are there. And once you get there, now you are financially free. Now you are real estate retired. Now you have control of your most precious commodity entirely, and that is your time. What does it look like when you're real estate retired? I have friends that just got back from 5 weeks traveling around Spain and Portugal. Now they've jetted off to Thailand for a month. That's what they do with their time. I have other friends that like doing what my wife and I do with our son, travel in the United States in an RV, motorhome, travel trailer, doesn't matter. That's what they like to do. That's what we like to do. Others I know, getting into local politics, getting involved in community services, getting involved with their churches, getting closer to their families that they've missed for so long. For me, it's like I said, opportunity to spend time with my son, homeschooling him. What would that look like for you when you attain financial freedom, when you are real estate retired, when you own your time? That's up to you. But you need to ask yourself, is staying on the conventional wisdom path going to get you to that financial freedom? Is it going to gain you back your time? Is taking a side hustle on top of that job going to solve the problem for you? If it is in the vein of the conventional side hustles, probably not. If it's real estate, yeah, it sure can. Go to lifestylesunlimited.com and check out our free workshop. That'll get you started on that education and team. Start there and then start to build. You have a great day.
The information and opinions you hear on the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show are those of the hosts, guests, and callers. The Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show is for entertainment purposes only. Please consult a professional regarding your personal investment needs. Nothing presented constitutes an endorsement, recommendation, offer, or solicitation to buy or sell any product or security.